number 7 wrong here. So what do we have in number 7? The whole first line, it can stand alone. It's a complete thought. What's the subject? Connections are, and are is the verb, right? When we have there are beginning a sentence, it reverses the subject-verb order and makes the subject come after the verb. But anyway, there are more possible connections between cells in one human brain. With the word more, you might think that this isn't an independent clause. It still is. Than there are grains of sand. This begins an adverbial subordinate clause. It's a subordinating conjunction. Grains are, we have a subject verb, but it's not a complete thought. So we do have an independent and a subordinate clause. It's complex, and I think some of you are putting simple. I think you didn't have too much trouble on 10, but it is a strangely organized sentence. What's my subject? City. This is a prepositional phrase, so no, it's not my subject. City sits. So we have inversion. That's actually one of the new terms you're going to be learning in your reading. We have inversion. The subject and verb are not in the normal order. But all we have is prepositional phrases all the way through, and then we have that. So I think that you will, that's all the help you need. Yeah. So we're going to start. You already have this document. I sent it to you earlier in the year on conjunctions, and you really need to look at it from time to time. Hope you save your documents that I send you through Edmodo as PDFs somewhere else, in files like under grammar. We know this group, but we have not looked at the correlative conjunctions and when we would use them. Well, we have some that indicate contrast, especially this, not only, but also. Not, but, very similar. But then we have some, this could indicate contrast, but these, just as, so, as, these are more comparison, and these are more contrast. So you're going to keep those in view as I going through one of the exercises in the book. So correlative conjunctions are a little new, and conjunctive adverbs are too. Remember, these are used to join independent clauses instead of a common and coordinating conjunction or just a semicolon. You can join the independent clauses and keep them as one sentence with these words, but you need a semicolon, then the word, then a comma. Sometimes not a comma, but normally, yes. So what do the words mean? If you don't look at them and understand them, you won't use them. Consequently means like as a result of, sort of cause effect like. This is a little more indicating contrast, otherwise does. But a lot of them mean like extension of ideas, like indeed, or more emphasis, or more clarification. So some of these conjunctions are to continue the idea on, but in a more extended way of some sort, to focus more, to elaborate more. Accordingly and consequently, I'd put in the same group, more cause effect. But coming back to the extension, well, besides can be an extension, so can anyway. Furthermore, for sure is. Hence is more cause effect. Indeed is extension. Likewise is extension. Moreover is extension. This is, nevertheless, but it has some sort of differences indicated by it too. these are pretty similar in meaning. Undoubtedly, it can be emphasis or extension, therefore it's cause effect. So you have to understand what they mean or you won't use them, and you have to remind yourself which ones are available. All right, so let's look at exercise 1. It's in our textbook, which you don't have, but I sent this to you. So what we're having here first, before we go into the conjunctions, this assignment, this exercise, just to practice, is not actually the conjunction so much. It's just when are these sentences containing improper punctuation that's creating a run-on? Well, this one, you can't join independent clauses with a comma. This one's okay because there's a coordinating conjunction and it has a comma, so that's fine. No, that's a comma splice run-on. Comma splice run-on. Comma splice run-on. This one's incorrect because it should have a semicolon and then a comma because this is a conjunctive adverb, not a coordinating conjunction. So improper punctuation. This one is the comma splice right here, but not here. This is where the comma splice would be. This is really the new subject and verb. But we just have a little prepositional phrase preceding it. But it's part of this clause. But it's a new idea, right, after we complete this idea. So you get the idea there. I want to move on. So what would you use to join these independent clauses? Well, I'll just tell you what I used. There are a lot of, you could use simply both and as a correlative conjunction to join these two independent clauses. Both Aiden James and his father are excellent pitchers. Both and. Of course, you have to do a little rearrangement of the wording. Not only, but also would join them. Okay. Let's move on to the fourth one. Okay. That one requires a little more work. These are pretty easy. This is the idea of extension. So when Charles Dickens wrote this novel, he was paid by the word. When Victor Hugo wrote Les Miserables, he was paid by the word. So we have similarity, but it's just extending the same idea. So the words that might work there could be indeed or furthermore. And then here, we have contributed. That means cause effect. So consequently or hence, we need that word here, one of those words there. And the same idea here. I learned how to type in high school. In fact, this was one of the most important classes that I took. Moreover or furthermore or indeed would go here. Moreover, I type all the time. Furthermore, I type all the time. Indeed, I type all the time. So just giving a little exposure to correlative conjunctions and some conjunctive adverbs. But this is the interesting passage where we start to use what you've been learning. So Lauren Isley wrote this account of these hawks. But let's look at the syntax in it. I was young then and had seen little of the world, but when I heard that cry, my heart turned over. It was not the cry of the hawk I had captured, for by shifting my position against the sun, I was now seeing further up. So far, we have a coordinating conjunction of contrast. This is more cause-effect, but some contrast. So when we have contrast, that's how you should start your essays. Try to fashion your essays so that they include some contradiction that you are going to resolve that will draw the reader in, because the reader has is wondering what you mean and why this isn't typical. Most people think such and such, but such and such. So this is a good way to draw in the reader to create interest, which is what Lauren Isley is doing here. He's contrasting inexperience and still being impressed. You know, even though he doesn't have much exposure to things, he's still impressed. So we should be too. And then he's contradicting. A person might be impressed by the cry of the hawk, but there was something more going on. So that continues the interest. So some bits of contrast. So what do we have here? We have coordination. This is called coordination. When we have this is definitely coordination. So it's two independent clauses next to each other. That's coordination. So let's move on to the more interesting part of the short passage. Straight out of the sun's eye, where she must have been soaring restlessly above us for untold hours, hurtled his mate. Well, if we were to diagram that sentence, we would see what he's doing. Prepositional phrase, subordinate clause, and then we finally have the rest of the independent clause, which this starts the independent clause before the subordinate clause, but it finishes here. So we do not have the main idea until the end. In your reading in chapter 12 this week, it talks about what this is. This is inversion, the subject coming after the verb, and also the main idea, delayed. What is that? It's a periodic sentence. But why? It's not just made for no reason. It's delaying an idea, so it's creating suspense and interest, and we see that the speaker, the author, has experienced some surprise too, all right? So at first he doesn't see because the sun is blinding him. Then the hawk comes into view. So he was delayed from seeing what was really going on, and we are delayed. So syntax sends the message, sometimes even with a skilled writer, even more than the content of the words. Right? We are made to wait just like the author was made to wait in this memory. And then again, we have the same construction. We have some periodic element going on. And from far up, prepositional, ringing from peak to peak, that's of the summits over us. That's a participial phrase with prepositional in it. Came a cry. Exactly the same. Do you think that happened by chance? It did not. Right? Cry came. It's inverted and it's delayed. It's like a double twist. It's a suspense and something odd, right? So he was surprised. This odd arrangement of the subject and verb mimics the surprise that it's a female hawk who was hurtling down to communicate with and maybe rescue or something her mate. So a rearrangement of the order, normally the male would be more aggressive. So this is periodic because the main idea is being delayed, the independent clause is being delayed, but it's not a normal periodic sentence because after it, it's all less important elements. This is the key idea because it's in the independent clause. Of such unutterable and ecstatic joy, prepositional phrase, that it sounds down across the ears, this starts a subordinate clause and tingles among the cups on my quiet breakfast table. Do you see how, because this is the apex, this is the center and the high point of this clause, there's a build-up to it and a descent afterwards. So the person who wrote this is relating that this was important, and the trailing down at the end, if we didn't have anything trailing and being less intense and less important, the phrases in subordinate clause, then we wouldn't have had a high point as much accentuated because there's stuff trailing after it. And that's called cumulative. So this is a hybrid sentence, a periodic buildup and a cumulative descent afterwards. So be sure to also do the reading and learn these terms more thoroughly in chapter 12.